Welcome into the show. Let's get it rolling. You're watching 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. And coming up, should 76ers fans be more worried about the New York Knicks following the Karl-Anthony Towns trade? We haven't had an opportunity to talk about that big acquisition for New York and how it impacts Philadelphia on the show, but we're going to check off that box and do that here today. Before we get started, a look at our September sub-battle among all NBA channels here at Chat Sports. We're talking Knicks and Sixers today, and right now, Knicks now has picked up 679 subscribers since the start of September, and that went through the entire month of September, of course. Now that we flip the page to October 1, 76ers now 157 subscribers. It's a new month, so let's take down all of these channels ahead of us. Hit that sub button for year-round coverage of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sixers. And as you can see here with these figures to my right, we are 145 people away from 20,000 subscribers. As for the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, myself, Chip, a couple of other people who were hanging out from the Chat Sports office were in the middle of nowhere, Texas, enjoying a night off, sitting by the bonfire, making some s'mores, about to hit the hot tub, and I see the notification on my phone. What? Karl-Anthony Towns is getting traded to the New York Knicks? Yeah, that was for real. No fake news. Knicks get Cat. Timberwolves get Julius Randle Donte DiVincenzo and a first-round pick. And then the Hornets added as a third team here for salary filler purposes pretty much. They get DaQuan Jeffries and draft capital. On the surface, and when you look at the numbers, Karl-Anthony Towns is a really good player and one of the top bigs in the NBA. Last year, almost 22 points per game, 8+ rebounds, 50% from the floor. He's one of the top three-point shooting bigs in the NBA, 41.5% from downtown last year. And those numbers have been pretty consistent all across the board for him throughout his career. While at Kentucky, a player and a big who could do it all. And so far in his NBA career, he's been a really steady player on the offensive side who's so diverse with his offensive skill set. Does he struggle to rebound a basketball? For sure. Does he struggle to play defense? No doubt. Has Joel Embiid had his number because Cat lacks some of that dog and some of that physicality? No question about it. Which brings me to my next point. Karl-Anthony Towns is a little bit flaky. He's had some no-shows in some really big games throughout his career. He has failed to take ownership. He's been a little bit sensitive. And now he's going to the mega market that is New York City, where the media is cutthroat. The fans are cutthroat. And if you don't play well, they will call you out. Now, to the next portion of the conversation, should Sixers fans be worried about the Knicks? Let me hit on that. Should Sixers fans be worried about the New York Knicks? I think when you look at their rotation, their starting five is really good. I love the acquisition of Mikal Bridges. Jalen Brunson is a bona fide superstar in this league. They bring in Karl-Anthony Towns, and you can use him as a 5 while Mitchell Robinson is out. And then once Mitchell Robinson comes back, Cat can play a little bit of the 4, and he can really stretch the floor and knock down the 3. But with how he matches up against Joel Embiid has always had the number of Karl-Anthony Towns. He's been a flaky player throughout his career. He can play on emotion, and when he gets frustrated, sometimes his game will struggle. So the Knicks are still an excellent team in the East. I'll probably still go Boston Celtics number 1, Knicks 2, Sixers 3, but let's not act like the Knicks aren't beatable, and let's not act like Karl-Anthony Towns is worlds better than Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid is the better center as compared to Cat. Are you more or less worried about the Knicks? I shared my opinions here. You let me know down in the comments section. M for more, L for less. That clip that I set up will be a part of our YouTube Shorts page and on our Instagram page. We specialize in long-form content as well as that short-form content. And let's keep it rolling. The Timberwolves got Julius Randle in this move. And Julius Randle is a classic good stats in the regular season guy, awful numbers in the NBA playoffs. I will give Julius Randle credit as well because he did help bring the Knicks organization back They were in the cellar a few years ago. Him playing well, this Knicks team starting to play better. He was certainly a part of that. And when he was healthy last year, that Knicks starting five efficiency-wise was one of the better groupings in the entire NBA. I just don't know how a team like the Timberwolves, which knows they're getting rid of a good player in Cat, Anthony Edwards really liked him. They're going to need Julius Randle to step up in the playoffs, and he hasn't done that throughout his entire career. His numbers fall off a cliff when postseason time comes around. 17 points per game, 9.5 rebounds. Good numbers on the surface, right? But how about the assist to turnover ratio? Turns it over a ton. The field goal numbers in the playoffs, 34+% and 28% from three. And then with Karl-Anthony Towns, his numbers really good. So the Knicks are probably looking at this as an upgrade from Julius Randle. That's exactly what it is. But even though Cat's numbers are better in the playoffs than Julius Randle, still doesn't take the flakiness in my eyes away from who Cat is as a player. So I think the Knicks got better with this trade. I think the Timberwolves got worse. That front court pairing never really made a lot of sense to have the Twin Towers in Minneapolis. It sounded good in theory, but as far as stylistically and at the end of games, Rudy Gobert was a liability. Karl-Anthony Towns at times was a liability. In the playoffs, he got so overly aggressive, was into foul trouble all the time, and that's because he's not a great defender, and sometimes he is out of position. I do really like the game of Donte DiVincenzo, and I think that the Villanova Knicks are really going to miss him as far as camaraderie, as far as the play, as far as big shot-making ability. We know what happened in that playoff series at MSG against Philadelphia. Helter-skelter, DiVincenzo hits the three, but as a starter and as a bench player, those are the numbers you want to look at here because DiVincenzo, according to reports, wasn't really fond of the fact that he was going to have to come off the bench after that acquisition of his former Villanova teammate and Mikal Bridges, and you can see why he's more comfortable as a starter. The numbers to the right of the screen, so much better when he was a starter as compared to him coming in off the bench and going to that point of no fear. DiVincenzo doesn't have any fear, and he will rise up and shoot it in the NBA playoffs. Had a couple of really good moments against Philadelphia, not just with that game winner. 17.8 points per game in his playoff career. The field goal, three-point numbers, excellent, 42.5% from three-point range. So I do think that the Knicks, while they get better with Karl-Anthony Towns, they will miss Donte DiVincenzo. Culturally, stylistically, big shot ability, also a really, really good defender. And this is that Knicks starting five now after bringing in Karl-Anthony Towns. You have Brunson running the point, Bridges at the two, OG Anunoby your wing, Josh Hart kind of a wing four, and then Karl-Anthony Towns as a center. So for the Knicks prior to this trade, it was like, do we bench DiVincenzo? Do we bench Josh Hart? They elect to bring in Cat and then trade away DiVincenzo. The Knicks' depth, they're not really that deep of a team. And we know that Tom Thibodeau loves to run his starters into the ground. Mitchell Robinson, he's hurt and isn't going to be back for a while. Miles McBride is a really, really good player, and he's their best bench player. You have Precious Achiuwa, Cam Payne, Jericho Sims, Tyler Kolek, Landry Shamet, Kevin McCullough, Pacome Dadier, and Ariel Haporti. So the Knicks here, they have some quality players as reserves, but more players than not, very, very unproven. Coming up next here on the show, how Joel Embiid has owned Karl-Anthony Towns in his career. And I like this for him because you can tell when he has to play Al Horford of the Celtics, he lacks confidence, and you see it. When he goes up against Cat, he loves proving himself, and he gets really, really hungry. Stay tuned for that conversation. But first, if you're a Sixers fan, there's a good chance that you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan. The Phils, the Fightins, able to win the NL East for the first time since 2011. They will play the winner in the NLDS of the Brewers-Mets series. And if you want to get your We Own the East shirts available in red as well as blue, all you have to do is go to chatsports.com/Phillies. It's a red October, and we're ready for some Phillies postseason baseball. Hopefully they win their first World Series since 2008. My World Series pick, Phillies against the Yankees. They get their revenge from losing in 2009. As for Joel Embiid against Cat, 11 games played. The numbers are awesome. Cat can't really defend him all that well. 28.5 points per, under 10 rebounds, 51% from the field, 45.5% from downtown, and he owns an 8-3 record. The last 4 games against Karl-Anthony Towns, you will not believe this. 39.7 points per game and 11.2 rebounds. Embiid is going to have to stay healthy come playoff time, but with that one-on-one matchup, Chip, Joel Embiid has owned Cat, and that's exactly what one of our first reactions was when we were sitting around the bonfire and we saw the news of this trade. We weren't really scared of Cat.
Yeah, look, the Knicks are going to be good. They were going to be good regardless before the trade. They're going to be good regardless after this trade, right? But losing Julius Randle to me isn't a huge deal. He never really fit in with this new roster anyways. I think losing Donte DiVincenzo for the Knicks is a massive, massive deal. Yep. We showed you their depth. They're not a very deep team. They're pretty much, that starting five is as good as it gets. And I think with Cat, that offense now, until Mitchell Robinson comes back, with Cat at the 5 is going to be so hard to guard because Cat obviously can space the floor. It's one of the challenges you might see when he's running the 5 with Embiid is he can draw Embiid away from the paint because he's one of, if not the best, 3-point shooting big men of all time. Of course, respect to Dirk. But, the pick and pop with Brunson and just the spacing they have all across the court is going to be deadly. But on the defensive end of the floor, there's a reason the Timberwolves wanted to experiment bringing Rudy Gobert in because Karl-Anthony Towns is not a very good defender. Now, he did have his best season of his career defensively last year, but that was with a lot of good defenders next to him, and he really had to buy in. So can he do it at the center position until Mitchell Robinson comes back? Will Mitchell Robinson even be able to come back around that January timeframe? How healthy will he be? It's, I think, a little bit of a risk for the New York Knicks, breaking up what, was a good thing that they had with DiVincenzo, and now bringing in such a star-level player like Cat. There's a huge upside to it. I could see it working out really well, but I can also see, it not necessarily working out as well as they would want to if maybe Mitchell Robinson isn't 100%, Cat has to play the 5 full time. Now all of a sudden they don't really have the depth on the floor, but regardless, a big-time move. Knicks are clearly going for it and going to be a team the Sixers will have to watch out for in the East.
Yeah, so those are our thoughts on the Karl-Anthony Towns trade here. And, you think about the landscape of the Eastern Conference, you still have to give the Celtics the crown. The Knicks beat the Sixers head-to-head. I think they've improved this offseason. Philadelphia has improved. I want to see what the Sixers look like when they get on the court because I do think their depth is better. But this East, regardless, going to be a gauntlet. So, what are your thoughts? Better team? Is it the Sixers? Is it the Knicks? Sound off with what you think. As always, thanks for watching the show. Let's get to 20,000 subscribers.